All right, everybody. Well, Merry Christmas, and I am super excited to be with you guys to talk about this. This is totally nerdy and actually probably a really good glimpse into what goes on in my brain a lot of times. So I have been waiting for after the day of Christmas. We're still in the Christmas season because I have been holding off on watching season 2 of The Mandalorian. So just a quick recap. Last year, my sister was home with my brother and I for Christmas. I took a little bit of time off after Christmas, and she said, "You got to watch this show, The Mandalorian." Now, if you know your Star Wars lore, the main Mandalorian kind of figure from the movies is Boba Fett. And I think Boba Fett is super lame. I've always been annoyed by how much he's in Star Wars, like fandom and all of this sort of stuff. And I realize, spoiler alert, okay, so just from now to the end of these videos, spoiler alert, even though I'm fairly certain I'm the last person in the galaxy who has wanted to watch this series and hasn't. But spoiler alert, I think this season is going to try and redeem Boba Fett. But nonetheless, a year ago, didn't like Boba Fett, so I was really skeptical about this series. And I was absolutely dead wrong and just blown away, right? I absolutely love the character of the Mandalorian, Mando, as he's called, and I love the storytelling. Star Wars is the first universe that I really got interested in. In fact, Luke Skywalker was like my first hero as a kid. I was probably 5.5, maybe 6 when I saw the Star Wars movies, and just it sparked my imagination. It sparked my love for heroism. I can't hear the theme, Luke's theme from Star Wars, without tearing up a little bit because of just how inspiring it was to me as a little kid. And so I was skeptical because I don't really like the newest Star Wars movies that came out, especially what they did to Luke. Totally different discussion. So I was skeptical about what that was going to end up looking like. And they just hit it out of the park. So I want to focus on just doing quick episode reactions to season 2's episodes. So I started last night with episode 1. I'm hoping to watch episode 2 tonight. Maybe if I get really ambitious, I'll do episode 3 too. We'll see. But episode 1 of season 2 was phenomenal. It goes without saying that the production value on everything, from the music to the cinematography to the costuming, it's just all fantastic. This feels like a universe that you could live in, that you could experience. And really, if you've grown up with Star Wars, if you're familiar with the lore, you would love to go to a galaxy far, far away and experience what's there. It's really good at just firing up the imagination. A few things that I thought I would just point out, 3 of them. So one, Mandalorian's armor is just incredible. It looks weighty, particularly the first fight scene, the way that he integrates his armor into the fight totally uniquely. It was just brilliant use of costuming. The design of the krayt dragon, which if you sort of dig into Star Wars lore, we've heard about krayt dragons. I don't know if we've ever seen one, but the way that it looked was terrifying, was enormous. Was just really, really evocative of some of the older stuff. I'm thinking of the asteroid worm that is in The Empire Strikes Back. It's that same sort of just huge scale kind of creature that is frightening and you worry for the heroes. And then finally, I just had to marvel at the sort of gangster character that Mando met with right at the beginning of the episode. He's got one eye, he's a Cyclops kind of figure, and his eye blinks and it moves, and it doesn't look like it's CGI to me. It actually looks like there's some sort of practical effect there, and that just is amazing because the character's only in for maybe 2.5 minutes, at least so far in this episode. His fate doesn't seem like he's going to be coming back, so I love just how lived in this universe feels. I am just head over heels for Mando, for the Mandalorian, as a great, maybe the best example of a truly masculine hero in pop culture. And that's such an important thing that we shouldn't understate. And because there's a lot of debate about what it means to be a man, and I think that particularly if we are not kind to women in the pressure that's put on them, in the way that we treat them and objectify them, men suffer from a different kind of corruption of masculinity. They're either pushed into this route where men become totally submissive and they don't live into the idea of their strength, they fail to kind of claim any sort of call to greatness or leadership, or they're pushed to this kind of machismo that's almost a stereotype, or that maybe gets culturally called toxic masculinity. So you either have men who kind of indulge in strength so much that they become a caricature and are focused solely on really themselves and on the pursuit of power, or you have men who so reject that they lose any healthy sense of strength. And so I think the way that Mando, the character, is written just navigates so beautifully right between those two things. He is a character who is strong, but in that strength is humble. So whether you want to say he is evocative of knights errant or kind of samurai, which is sort of the origin of even the Jedi, like a samurai without a master, or even the old Western heroes, right? Mando is something of a fusion of all of those characters, all of those archetypes, and captures their goodness, captures their nobility, but also captures their strength. And there's something that's just deeply attractive about that in a character, that watching him as a man, I go, there is a man that I want to be like, right? As Catholics, we might go, okay, so we know that we should imitate the saints, and that the saints reveal true masculinity, true femininity, that Jesus is the one who reveals what it is to be truly human. But sometimes that's like maybe 2 or 3 rungs of the ladder beyond where we're at, and we need some help with our imagination to get there. But if we look around, we don't have a lot of imaginative examples of that. We don't have figures that our imaginations can bite down on. Either they become too violent or corrupted in their pursuit of violence and vigilantism, or they go astray in some other way. But there's something unique about the character of the Mandalorian that goes, I could take in his example and have a lot of peace. Now, is he a saint? No, he's not. But he's a good pagan, and I use that in a good way. So like in the ancient pagan kind of sense, he's a good pagan hero that prepares our imagination to be evangelized by the heroism that we see in the saints and in Christ. So one just sort of great thing is that he typifies the sort of masculine sense that if you seek peace, be ready for war. Mando does not indulge in needless or excessive violence, or violence for violence's sake. There's always not just a reason, but a good reason. The defense of the innocent, or the reclaiming of a cultural, quasi-religious birthright. He has a reason. He is not simply just even a mercenary. He's got a quest. He has a purpose. And so ultimately, he's well disciplined. He's focused on the end of his quest, not just on inflicting as much violence as he can. But when he's put into a position of needing to inflict violence, he's able to do it for the sake of the child that he's taken care of, for the sake of the mission, or the people that he has given himself over to defend. This is a good glimpse of what it means to be trained to protect others, right? So maybe as men we may seek out training in the martial arts, we may seek out weightlifting or some other form of physical discipline. And really, Mando shows a good reminder that we need to always have a purpose beyond ourselves in mind when we engage in something that trains us or prepares us for violence, right? It's always at the service of a greater mission. And if we don't have that greater mission, I think there's a greater likelihood that we will be lost either in idolizing ourselves and building ourselves up, or be lost in the senselessness of violence and fail to discipline that particular passion in our hearts. Another thing that stands out to me with Mando is, and this is more general heroism, is the fact that he isn't just a hero who does stuff for the greater good. There seems to be a kind of pop culture fascination with characters who do bad things, but they do them for the greater good. And that's not Mando, because he has a mission. He's been tasked almost religiously with reuniting the child with the Jedi. But then, when he is caught up in protecting the defenseless or the innocent, he's willing to sacrifice himself. So right in this episode 1, he is willing to sacrifice himself for this town and for the Sand People, and is willing to entrust the mission for the child to this character that he befriends. He's willing to sacrifice himself for the good of people that he doesn't know, really. That's heroism, to go, well, yes, I have my grand mission, but I won't leave others to be laid waste if I can do some good. Somehow that other good will be fulfilled. It's a really fascinating kind of character in today's world, because a lot of times I get tired of the commentary of, oh, we've got to do evil for the greater good, because it's just kind of sophomoric when it's written that way, and it doesn't really edify us or build us up. Instead, it feeds us this steady lie of like, hey, you can sacrifice some good for the greater good. And really what ends up happening is we just end up doing evil and justifying it to ourselves. And so Mando is a character who's willing to sacrifice himself, not just for the greater good, but for good in general. And again, that's a deeply, deeply beautiful, really deeply beautiful way of living. And ultimately, and this was why I just really fell in love with the whole first season, and so far, it seems like season 2 is leaning into this as well. There's a beautiful line that the church presented in the Second Vatican Council, but really that captures the entire vision of the Christian life. And it's phrased that man, in the generic sense, humanity, man truly finds himself when he makes a sincere gift of himself. This is just a restatement of Jesus' phrase that if you wish to follow me, take up your cross and follow after me. Right? If you seek to find your life, be willing to lose it. So in our vocations, none of us are probably tasked with the quest that Mando has, but in our vocations, in parenthood, in being married, in being a priest, in our day-to-day work, we have the call to give ourselves, to lay ourselves down. And it's in doing that then that we find ourselves. Right? So Mando, as he grows as a character, we find that he is really made more by his willingness to sacrifice. He becomes a clan of two, as is said towards the end of the first season, by taking care of this child. His whole life is defined by the child. Everybody who knows about the Mandalorian knows about his child and his willingness to protect him. He's defined by the ones that he loves, by the ones that he serves. And so there is something just deeply engaging about his character. And so episode 1 of season 2 just seemed to absolutely nail that. And we see that by him living out his vocation, his mission, he makes everyone better, right? He brings the Sand People and the villagers of this town together. He frees the martial character from living under a kind of stolen identity, and he liberates them literally from a dragon. There's just a really awesome engagement with the idea of what we are capable of, maybe even more so as Christians, when we engage with this process of laying our lives down, not just for the greater good, but for the good in our day-to-day life, and allowing God to do more with us by that self-gift. So I'm excited for episode 2 tonight. I'm a total nerd, so let's enjoy watching this and engaging it together. So this is the way, my friends. Talk to you soon.